Hello gentlemen, and welcome to another PalaView market research video. In the coming videos, I want to begin to discuss with you all a bit more history in an attempt to clarify some of the confusion present in our world right now. Because when you dive deep enough, you quickly learn that much of the economic problems we are facing right now are neither new or unique. The history I would like to begin to cover is a history of finance. A history of how individuals were empowered or oppressed by their socioeconomic conditions, with the goal of proving to each of you that the fundamentals of how individuals throughout history have accumulated wealth, ethically or not, has not meaningfully changed. In many ways, this history is a story of how ordinary people became rich, and a history of our collective relationship with interest rates, or more specifically, usury, a word that describes high interest rate loans that we have lost in our current culture. You may be surprised to learn that in ancient Rome, early America, Napoleon's France, 20th century Japan, and many other civilizations have had periods of time where usury was made illegal. And you may even be more surprised to learn that in all of those stated examples, on the other side of banishing high interest rate loans, massive economic growth ensued. But in today's video, I want to focus on how poor people became rich throughout history. It is easy to understand, how multi-generational families accumulate land and create yield off that land via agriculture through the nature of inheritance, right? And since agriculture, as all of you know, was the dominant sector of the global economy for much of human history, that hasn't always been the case. And there were many technologies that increased the volume at which we were able to trade, right? Increasing the volume of trade is actually what created all of this unique economic opportunity for people. So what was the first major technology that revolutionized our ability to trade at a higher volume? Well, it was boats, or more specifically, different forms of longships and later clipper ships. So these boats allowed different cultures to effectively trade and or raid with one another. They were so impactful that new industries like fur and spice trades were created because the very idea of markets did not really even exist before. Because before these longships, your economy was fully contained within your local community. But ships being able to move food and various other goods from the Mediterranean up to, say, Denmark, completely revolutionized what economic opportunities were available to people. The sheer volume of opportunity was now effectively limitless relative to the opportunity before. Kind of similar to economic opportunities to people before and after Wi-Fi and the internet. However, there was only one problem. You needed a boat, and different cultures had different methodologies for gaining access to such a huge opportunity, like manning your own ship, right? Because the people who owned the ships were the people who could afford to build them. And that was exclusively the lords, kings, and emperors of Europe and Asia. So what types of people were given this opportunity to use these boats? And what was the opportunity in the first place? Well, the opportunity is kind of simple, kind of easy to understand, and it effectively describes what a modern hedge fund is. Take my stuff, leave with my stuff, come back with more stuff. The excess stuff you bring is also known as your profits, right? And you get to keep a cut of the profits you bring back. So that's called a carry, right? And that's likely somewhere between 10 to 20% of the profits that they brought, right? Using the other person's resources. And if you take a look at the logos of the largest hedge funds or asset managers in the world, you will notice a huge number of them use these ships as their logos because the first hedge fund was a literal ship. So what types of people were entrusted with these boats? Well, they were leaders, men with followers, but more importantly, men with vision. Men who were able to see targets no one else could see. And this leads me to cringily share one of my favorite things I ever wrote when reflecting on an Alexander the Great book. It's this idea that the mind memory of men will always be held by those who followed their great visions. It's this idea that the greater the vision, the more difficult the journey. The more difficult the journey, the greater the leader. Because to do things that are truly difficult requires a leader to possess a dutiful spirit and a generous heart, all right? But even more importantly, great visions are simply great stories. And a great story shows people what parts they play in it while inspiring them to commit their lives to playing that part. So if you possess those qualities, those meta skill sets we talk about on this channel, you will inevitably succeed in any economic situation at any point in human history. That's what they're designed to show you. Because you can always rally the troops and encourage them to keep pushing when the going gets tough. That is today's video, and we will continue this discussion tomorrow.